We have Amrita with us. She is a soul purpose coach and she shares the content around the purpose of life and how to lead a life of purposefulness. So, Amrita, can you share something about yourself and how you help
Yeah,
people? Yeah.
for sure. Thanks for having me, Pragya. I'm really happy to be here. So a little bit about me. In India, I grew up in Australia and then I moved to the States. Now I'm back in Australia. But I think my like connection to India has always been like very, very strong, very, very like heartfelt sort of connection. So very like long story short, I kind of followed this path where in my early 20s, I kind of just did what people expected me to do,
Mm,
like do the 9 to 5, take a job that would make my parents proud, start like thinking about settling down, etc., etc. And I think a big turning point for me was when I actually went back to India for like a longer trip. And like I said, like that was the first time where I like it kind of hit me like, hey, like I have this really strong connection to this. I actually think I should like be dedicating my life to this because I could feel like a greater sense of purpose when I was in India. I felt happier, I felt more inspired. Like there was so much there, right, that I wasn't feeling in my day-to-day life back in Australia.
mm.
So I think ever since I found my purpose in India, like I kind of realized that I had also evolved as a result, right? Like so when you have this really big sense of purpose, a really big vision, you kind of develop yourself into like becoming the person capable of achieving that vision. And
Mm.
so it's not just about like, can I achieve this? It's also about personal development, personal growth. So the reason that I work with people on purpose now is because I've seen how much it's transformed my life and my personality and who I am. And I think that is the transformation that if you can make that happen at scale, especially in a country where there's so many intelligent, amazing young people like India, that's when a country can really like prosper and really take on the next level of like abundance, prosperity, all of that. So that's my purpose. And it's also what I preach or what I talk to when I'm speaking one on one with clients.
Beautiful. That is so very inspiring. So, if you could summarize, like, what is purpose? We can come to the basics. What is purpose? Hmm.
I think I feel like the way I would define it is like we're all here for a reason. Like I don't think any of this is random. I don't think it's just like we just randomly appeared in this particular body at this particular time with this set of thinking. Like there's a reason that you are here as you, I am here as me. And I also believe that every single one of us have we've come here to further ascend in our journey towards like realization, right? So when we think about purpose, my definition is like each one of us has come here with an earthly mission. And in the pursuit of that mission, we start ascending spiritually as well. Like at a soul level, at a consciousness level, we start leveling up, leveling up, leveling up. And eventually there's a point at which your purpose is like a path towards your own realization and your own like coming back to yourself as soul. So like at a spiritual level, I think like all of our purpose ultimately is to realize, but the way we get there is our earthly mission and how we've decided to set a big vision for ourselves and become a version of ourselves that we never thought we were going to be. So I think there's a lot in that question, but hopefully like that was kind of a good summary.
That's so powerful. So, what do you think? What is the mission of your life? If you could share.
So I think everything for me connects back to India. Like I said, the feeling that I have when I'm there, there's I can't deny it, and it always takes me back.
Hmm.
For me, it's all about like empowering like as many young people in India as possible to live on their purpose. Because when you can activate that at scale, you can literally uplift an entire country. Like that.
So, you were here in India and you shared that you encountered or you realized your purpose. So, what are the some series of incidents that made you realize about your purpose? Yeah.
Yeah. So like I said, like when I before I came to India, I was in a very confused state of mind. Obviously, I'd like been on this path where I'd like followed everyone else's
Mm,
expectations for my own life. And I was like, I'm really miserable. But then if
mm,
this isn't it, then what is the thing that I'm looking for? And I'd always had like a really strong like connection to India as well. So when I came, it was like firstly the first thing was the feeling that I had. So for the first time in a very long time, I felt I can't even explain the feeling. Like it was just I felt like this is it. Like I am meant to be here. And it was this feeling that I had throughout the whole time. And I was shocked. I was like, I've never felt this alive before. I've never felt this inspired before. It just felt like it was coming from such a deep, deep place. So that was the first thing. And the second thing was maybe there was like two or three key incidents that happened where I was like, okay, this is it. Like I'm all in after this. And the first thing was when I like met this like little girl who was like kind of selling cotton buds to fund her education. And usually it's like you kind of see people and you like, okay, this is life, we deal with it. But something was different about that incident because when I met her, we had this moment where our like eyes connected and it was like this and like everything kind of stopped and I was like, whoa, like what is happening? And so there was that incident, and that made me kind of walk away being like, dude, like I've like got to do something about like this just feels like I should take some personal responsibility so that this doesn't happen in like my motherland anymore. And the second thing was when I was on like a flight from I think the south to the north of India. And I was sitting next to this like young guy, maybe like early 20s, and he saw me. I was like reading a personal development book by Robin Sharma, and he started talking to me and I started talking to him and he was like, okay, like he started saying like I'm really depressed, like I don't have any hope for myself, I don't have any hope for this country, like I'm just gonna leave.
Hmm.
And I started like hyping him up on the thing. I was like, no, it's not like that, like what are you passionate about, like you can make a change and like blah blah blah. And I think that was like the first time where like we got off and he actually, I could see like he was thinking differently and I was like,
Wow.
what the hell, like that felt so good. Like this was before I knew anything about coaching, about anything. I was also a kid back then. And so those two incidents, when I came back, they just like kept playing back in my mind. But more so than the incidents, it was the feeling. That feeling that I told you about was like I could not forget that feeling of aliveness. You know, it was just like I've told other friends this, but like when I'm there, when I'm in touch with India, which I define to be like my place of purpose, it's like you just turned up the color in my life. Like everything is like 100% more intense, colorful, alive. And
Wow.
then that's when you know it's like, oh, there's something here. I have to do something to do with this.
Wow, that is so inspiring. The way you shared that, you motivated, inspired that young person. Many a times we forget our real nature, what we are meant to be here, but someone is there. You can call the mentor, the guide, the guru. And then you realize that you have that power to inspire people, to share your knowledge, the wisdom to inspire and help them realize their own light. That is so powerful. And that is what makes me alive, happy, and fulfilled. Sharing the message with the world and seeing that smile on the face that is fearless, that is full of, purpose. That is so powerful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who is your guru? Do you have any guru in your life?
I think my answer, I don't know if you can see this. You're gonna see my very messy room, but like I don't know if
Yeah.
you can see that photo.
Yes,
It's
yes, I
like
can see Raman Maharshi ji. Yeah.
yeah. So I think the story for me there is like I had like very bad depression. It was like probably 15 or so years ago. And then everything changed for me when like I read one of his books and I started doing like the who am I meditation.
Mm.
And it just like everything changed for me after then. Like when you can, it really just taught me that like I can step away from my mind. I can step away and create that distance from this personality that is Amrita. And when you can do that, suddenly it's like, oh, the whole thinking changes, right? So
Yes.
like from day one, I think like he's been guiding me and he's always with me and he's always showing me the way. So I like hands down,
That is
definitely.
so powerful. I can relate with it completely.
What
How is
about
it?
you, Prag?
Yes, I have. My guru is Gurudev Sri Sri Ravi Shankar ji. You must have heard about him. So I
Yes, I've
follow
seen your
his
posts about
techniques, his
him as well.
wisdom, and everything. So, it is so important to have a guru in the life. So, what is your opinion about having the presence of a guru in life to guide you towards the highest? Hmm.
So I feel like I am not fully qualified to answer that question because to some extent anyway, because I feel like I haven't fully committed to my own spiritual path enough yet. But having said that, like I think to put it very simplistically, you know how in the personal development field they always say like if you want to achieve something, work with someone who has already done it. I think very simplistically, that is the power of having a guru who you are completely committed to 100%, is because they're already there in terms of the spirituality side of things. And so again, like I feel very unqualified to answer this question because I think in the material realm, I don't have like a guru that I'm like 100% committed to. Like I said, I've got like I feel like I've got the guidance of like gurus who are not in this physical realm, but like in terms of all in 100% in this particular physical realm, I can't answer that question, but I can see why it would be so important and how it would like definitely exponentially increase your spiritual growth and journey.
Wow, so powerful. You've experienced the wisdom of your guru and everything, and that is helping you in finding your path and purpose. So it's a infinite journey. We can never say that I've arrived, I've reached, and that is the
Yeah,
sign of the progress. So that is so powerful.
exactly. Always.
Yeah. Have you read the Bhagavad Gita?
So I feel like I've read translations of it, but I haven't read it in Sanskrit, which I think would make a really big difference.
Hmm.
Um, so kind of like I've read like very short summaries of it, and even that has like made a pretty big impact on my life. But I think it would take it to the next level if I actually knew how to like read it in Sanskrit. I think that would be like that's probably my next goal, like at some point in the next few years.
100%, 100%. We'll come back to the Bhagavad Gita. Before that, if someone is lost in life, they don't know what to do, where to go, and they're confused about their career also and every single thing. There are many different influences outside. So, what you will suggest to
Mm.
that person? What is that first step that they should take? Yeah.
So I think the fundamental belief I have is that it is impossible for us to not know the answers about our own self and our own life. Because, like, how can that be? Like, you are you, and there is like a higher consciousness in every single one of us.
Hmm.
So, this concept of like, I'm confused, I don't know what to do, I always call that as it's a lie, it's an illusion. At your highest self, you know exactly what you want to do. You know why you're here, you know your purpose, you know who you are, you know every single thing. So that's always my underlying belief in everything. Like the answers are within, they're not outside. And so
Hmm.
if you want to like if you want to be able to access those answers from within, I think the biggest game changing question is, if I took you out all the way to the end of your life and you're lying on your deathbed and you're looking back on your life, what sort of life do you want to look back on? And I think the reason that question works is because in that scenario, firstly, people don't think about death enough. People don't talk about death enough. We just pretend it's never going to happen to us. And
Hmm.
because we pretend that, we're making decisions as if we're going to live forever. That's not the case, right? If we
Wow.
actually felt like life is limited, this is a mortal shell, it can go at any point, we're not gonna mess around. We're gonna make the decisions that are true and authentic to us. So I think that's the power of that exercise. So I think so one exercise that I always do with clients is the deathbed visualization, and it has literally worked 100% of the time. There hasn't been a single scenario where someone's come in and said, I don't know what I want to do with my life. They do the deathbed meditation, and it's like immediately
Hmm.
it's like they already knew, and they already knew what they wanted to do. It was just them being caught up in this illusion of confusion, which is what I like to call it. So that's probably the first step. And from there, I think that's not the difficult part. Figuring out what your purpose is actually the easy part in my books. Having the ability to commit to it and take action day after day after day, that's the challenge. Like that is where things get very interesting. But yeah, first step, I think we all know. We all know deep down. We just need to kind of cut the noise at the conscious level and go deep within. And the best way to do that is to challenge yourself and say like, hey, I don't have much time here. If I take myself all the way out, what sort of life do I want to live? And what sort of life do I want to look back on when I'm on my deathbed?
Wow, that is so powerful. You shared that the awareness of the deathbed also, that if the life will end, you won't regret few things. And if you'll regret, what is that stuff that you want to make it happen and build and whatever. So one thing that, if I'm the one who knows my purpose, so I'm aware of my purpose, but I don't have the courage to pursue it, that you shared, that going ahead with that every single day, making a difference. So if someone is there who is aware, but they don't have the courage, what advice
Hmm.
will you have for that person? Hmm.
So I've been here before. Like I know what that's like. So when I did have clarity on my purpose, I still came back to Australia and I worked in the same job that I hated for 1 full year because I didn't have the courage to quit. I was afraid of like what people would think. I was afraid of what my parents would think. So I think the way I would answer that question is it's not about courage. It's about what is happening internally where you feel like your dreams aren't worth pursuing. Does that make sense? Like what is happening in your inner world that is stopping you from actually doing what you want? Because doing what you want technically is like such a basic thing, right? Like as kids, we were never like, "Hey, I want that lollipop. I don't believe I deserve that lollipop." That never happened in our brains as kids. But like as adults, that's what's going on. "Hey, I want this. Oh, I don't think I'm deserving someone." What is that? Like that is what needs to be solved for. It's less about courage and it's more about what is the part of you that is not in alignment with who you truly are and what you truly want. And whatever that part is that isn't in alignment, we need to examine that. We need to process that. We need to heal that. Because more often than not, that part of you is hurt. It's in pain. It's like unresolved emotions from your past, whatever it is, that needs examining. And I've found that the more I've healed myself, the easier I'm able to commit to things. The easier I'm able to say, I want this, I'm gonna go get it. The only times when I've failed and I've not shown up for myself is when this part of me, the unhealed part of me, has more power over my life than the part of me that wants the goal.
That is too intense and powerful to understand. Yes. So you shared that there's something which is going on within, which is not in alignment with our purpose internally. How to resolve that? Is there any way we can do it? And how you did it for yourself? Yeah.
So it's a really good question. It's a complex question because
Yeah.
it comes back to understanding who you are and how your subconscious mind, what the state of your subconscious mind is at this point in time. And so the first thing, like if I had to do this journey all over again, these are the things that I would do, right? I would have started meditating earlier. And the
Mm.
reason I say that is because with meditation, I get that one step back, detachment from my mind, so that I can observe what is happening in my mind right now. The moment I started doing that, I could observe here are the parts of me that are not in alignment. Here are the thought patterns that are literally stopping me from achieving what I want. Now I can have the awareness. Now I can actually do something about it. So I think that's probably the first thing. The second thing is I would have invested into therapy much earlier. So for me, therapy has been like a total game changer because yes, I have awareness of like the pains that I have, the negative thinking patterns. But if you find a really good therapist, you can actually go and understand, okay, why are those thinking patterns there? Why are those painful thoughts there? Why am I standing in my own way? And when you understand why, then it's much easier for you to say, okay, next question. If say like I am sabotaging myself because I believe I am unworthy. And now I know I feel like I'm unworthy because of some childhood incident that happened, because of some childhood dynamic. Maybe my parents yelled at me when I did XYZ, whatever it is, right?
Mm.
Now I know why I feel this way. I can attack it. I can process it. I can heal it. And there's so many different like healing modalities out there, right? So my next thing I would do is like I would just go and experiment with everything that's out there. And there's so much in our own culture that we can use around this, right? Like I personally believe that if you master meditation, you can master your own healing and you may not even need other modalities. But if that's not working, we have access to so many other ways of healing, like Reiki. We've got access to like EMDR, which is like trauma therapy. There's just a whole entire field that we have access to. And then from there, it's just about being really, really regular with your self analysis, with understanding, hey, I wanted to work out today, but I didn't. What was the part of me that stood in the way? Why is it there? How do I heal it? Repeat, 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 repeat. And over the course of like several years, you're actually going to see, holy crap, like more and more of me is in alignment. Like there's less part of me that's like, oh, I don't want to. No, I'm like starting to align. Mind, body, spirit is starting to align to the single vision, and everything feels easier because I'm not standing in my own way anymore.
Wow, that is so powerful. About the meditation. Meditation is a must for, bringing that self-awareness element. How meditation helped you in your own journey? Would you like to share something about that?
Yeah. So I'm a meditation, I'm addicted to meditation. Like I firstly cannot go a single day without it. And I hands down believe it saved my life because I discovered it and committed to it around the time when I was like in depression or coming straight out of depression, right? So the way it took someone who was in the lowest of the low and gave me another chance at just showing up in the world and taking control of my mental activity, it changed the entire game for me. So I think I can talk about meditation in two ways, right? There's like the very practical, scientific, physical impact of it, the ability for it to give you insight into your mental activity, calming your nervous system, blah, blah, blah. But for me, I think what is interesting is that it has directly given me a foundation for like very rapid spiritual growth and personal growth. Because again, the moment you can take that detachment and step
Mm.
back and say, okay, now I can observe my body, myself, all of this, it's crazy how empowering that is. And when you have that power, it's like you can start to do anything. You can actually start to consciously create your life, consciously decide which way do I want to go? What do I want to commit to? What are my habits I want to like bring into my life? It's like it gives you the reins over like I don't know if this is the right thing, but you know that image in like the Bhagavad Gita where like you have like Krishna's the charioteer and then Arjuna sitting in the chariot, and then there's those five horses which represent each of your senses, and then Krishna's like holding the reins of that. That's what meditation feels like
Wow.
for me. Like it's like you're taking control, like you are in charge. So I think that's I mean, I could talk about meditation for hours, but fundamentally, it puts you back into that control position where you are connected to your higher self and you can finally take control of everything that is you.
Hmm. So very powerful. The example that you given about the Bhagavad Gita, and, taking charge of your own mind. They're running, these horses are running in multiple directions. So taking charge of that, because that is happening consciously, unconsciously, and that is driving us
100%.
crazy. And we think that many a times we take certain decisions and we think this is what I want. But in reality, that is not who we are. So, based on
Yes.
this understanding, there's one more question wherein the people they think that this is their purpose, which is influenced by the external stuff. So, how to differentiate that this is something which I really want to do? This is coming from within, from the soul, from the inner voice, or something that is being influenced by someone else is doing something, or some influencer is doing some certain stuff. So, how to differentiate that? Hmm.
I love that question. I was actually thinking about this
Yeah.
just yesterday. I think the key is how well you know yourself, right? Like if you know yourself really well, you will know when something is coming from a place of authentic, like this is who I am versus, oh, I'm just doing this to look good in society. Like
Hmm.
you'll be able to differentiate. This actually happened to me yesterday. When this is a very basic example. So I was about to post up on Instagram and I could sense that there was some hesitation. And in that moment of hesitation, I had to examine, am I hesitating because I'm self-sabotaging and it's like sort of like don't do it, I want to stop, you're moving too quickly, I don't want to succeed, or was I hesitating because intuitively I was like let me post this later. And so even now it was hard for me to tell. I don't know which part of me is trying to make that decision,
Hmm.
but in the end I was able to differentiate because I've done the work to understand who I am. Like I've done the work to understand when is my unhealed self talking versus when is my higher self talking.
Wow.
And again, comes back to meditation. Like if I hadn't like I've been meditating for the last like 16 years or something insane like
Wow.
that.
This
If
is.
I didn't have that as a base, I
Hmm.
would not know. And I would just follow any instinct that comes up in my mind. Oh, I should do this. Okay, I'll go do that. Because
Hmm.
I don't know whether that instinct is self-sabotage or whether it's actually me. And
Hmm.
again, so I think that's why there's no simple answer to that beyond you need to invest the time into knowing who you are. Like all 80% of your time investment needs to go into understanding this, mastering this. And
Hmm.
then everything's so much easier after that. And
Hmm.
you can distinguish like is this decision coming authentically or is it an influenced like an externally influenced decision.
Wow, yes, yes, 100%. Even I've experienced that through meditation. We realize, when you're
Yeah,
confused, you just observe your breath, you meditate, and you're clear that, this is not
yeah,
something which I want to do consciously. It is being influenced by the outside world. So that's so
that's
powerful.
really powerful.
You've been meditating from 16 years. That is super inspiring.
Yeah, let me think. Yeah, it's probably a little bit more than 16 years actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
There are many people who think that they will meditate when they are old, or they will read Bhagavad Gita. They'll think about the divine, about the Guru, about the purpose of life at the end of their life. Now is the time to enjoy, to like experience many different things and everything. Do you have anything to share about on this? Hmm.
That's such a hard question. Like, I consider myself very blessed because I was brought up in a very spiritual family. If it wasn't for that, I would never have picked up that book by Ramana Maharishi. I never would have, like, I learned to meditate at Chinmaya Mission in Sydney. So, like, my parents had, like, I like owe all
Hmm.
of it to them, right? I also think like we're all on our own spiritual journey. And so that inclination towards spirituality, it'll happen when it's meant to happen in one's life. And I also, third thing, I think if anyone is watching this particular, like your podcast, and anyone is like drawn into you, like you're such a spiritual person, it's probably because it's time for them to step into their spiritual path as well.
Hmm.
So I never feel like there's like a time for spirituality. I think it comes into your life when it's meant to come into your life. And even when you're like partying or you're like doing what you need to do when you're young, like even that is part of your spiritual journey, right? It's like you've kind of exhausted those desires. And maybe you pick up spirituality at 40 and 50, but
Hmm.
that's what your journey is. That's what your soul's journey is.
Hmm.
So I don't know, that's a bit of a vague answer, but I feel like it happens when it's meant to happen, depending on each soul's path.
100%, 100%. We all have our unique timelines, so that is make everything unique.
100%.
Yes, that was super inspiring conversation with you. And the many people who share that, there is no purpose of life. I've been talking about this and sharing that stuff. The
Yeah.
people that, the purpose is you. There's no purpose of life. There is no meaning of life. You're just here to eat, sleep, and just enjoy and something of that sort. So, what is that mental framework which is making them think like that? Do you have any idea about it? Because if I want to share my own perspective, I
Please.
feel, yeah, I feel that the people who don't want to take responsibility of things like at certain level, you know because if we find the purpose, if we realize it, there's some sort of commitment. You have to come out of that self that is binding you. So to
Mm,
just deny this at all, that there's no purpose, we're just here to
wow.
whatever. So that is what I feel. What do you think about it? Hmm.
That's honestly such a good question. I think there's like two ways to look at that question. I think if someone is saying like there isn't a purpose to my life and it's actually again coming from a place of self-sabotage, then I completely agree with you. Like
Hmm.
then it is what you said and it's like, "Oh, the only reason I'm saying this is because low key I'm afraid that I won't be able to live up to my expectation. Maybe like, I won't be able to achieve it." That's
Hmm.
one thing. But I also think that there are so many different ways to philosophize about life and reality. And like our philosophy that feels natural to us is that yes, there's a purpose. Yes,
Hmm.
there's a link to spirituality. But there could be like atheists out there where that's their authentic
Hmm.
view of reality. And so if that's what it is, then like I actually respect that. Like I respect that you've adopted a philosophy and you're like, this is what I'm abiding to. But
Hmm.
it's a totally different ball game if it's like, there's no purpose because I'm too scared. Like that's a different thing.
Okay. Okay, that is so beautifully you answered. Hmm. So if we talk
Bit
about
of
the
a
purpose, yeah,
diplomatic answer.
you can go ahead. You're sharing something.
No, I was just gonna say it was a bit of a diplomatic answer, but I do believe like no one of us, no, like none of us are right and none of us are wrong when it comes to philosophizing about the nature
100%.
of life and
I
reality.
was sharing that from a rigid, I know this is right, to coming to a place of I don't know, and that is so beautiful. That is in a sense of wonder, isn't it? That will show that we are open towards the realizations, because in
100%.
reality we don't know anything. We are choosing something that is giving a sense of comfort or realization. We are choosing according based on that. So that openness is
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
lighter, it's so
I felt like,
liberating. Yeah.
yeah, I think there's something really there's actually something really comforting about being comfortable with not knowing. Like
Mhm.
that's the space, that's like an empty space where you get to actually grow so much. Because if I'm like going in and being like, I definitely know that my philosophy is right and there's nothing else, that's it. Like there's no ability for you to kind of explore within that or beyond that. But when you're like, hey, this really resonates with me, this is my philosophy, but I could be wrong. Let me
100%.
learn about what you think. There's something really beautiful about that.
Hmm. What is your idea of happiness? The people who say that I'm going to achieve this, gain this, this will happen, then I'll be happy and every single thing. So, what makes you happy at the fullest, and what is happiness for you? Yeah.
Braga, your questions are so good.
Thank
Um,
you so much.
I think I'm going to answer it in a weird way, but I think I feel the happiest when like I'm in a like an expanded state of being. Does that make sense? So,
You
you
can
know that feeling
elaborate a
you
bit.
get
Yeah.
when,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah. So, like, when I know that I've like, all the stuff that we were talking about, like when I feel like there are moments in the day where I'll just be like, oh man, I didn't feel any like lower vibration today. I wasn't negative about anything today. I
Hmm.
wasn't, and even when I was, I handled it so well. Like I didn't like
Hmm.
ignore it. I didn't shut it out. I sat with myself. I handled myself with love. Like
Wow.
those are the days. I think happiness to me is like self mastery done with like abundant love. And
Hmm.
like when, because that's it. Like at the end of the day, like I feel like if you can master that, if you master yourself, that's most of it sorted. Like what more do you need? If you can stand and like whatever happens around you in the external world, you're strong, you're full of love for yourself, you're full of love for other people, it's kind of like you've won. Like that's
Hmm.
winning, right? That's happiness to me. That's it. That's what I would love to have every single day.
That's so very profound. Based on this, yeah, based on this, I want to share the people think that the happiness is in achievements, in becoming something, in grabbing something, pursuing something. Now, what will you say to that person that because they think that the happiness is there in that stuff, but it is not there? They feel emptiness even after that
Mm,
achievement.
mm.
So, what will you suggest to that individual? Suppose I'm the one and I'm sharing that I've been running all my life behind many different people, many different things. I achieved all of them. Still, I'm not happy. What will make me happy and why I'm not happy? Yes. What do you think?
I actually think I had this conversation with someone and I've been on the receiving end of that conversation. Like I've been in that place.
Hmm.
And when that happened to me, when I realized that I was running and running and running, and there was a deep like void in me. I was looking for everything outside to fill that void. And even now, when I have moments where I'm like, oh, I want this because I feel empty on the inside,
Hmm.
that's a sign for me to actually stop. Like,
Hmm.
because nothing, no action that I take from that mentality is going to improve my life. Any
Wow.
action I take from this mentality of like, oh, I need it, it's just going to create more of that energy in my life. Oh, I need this to survive. Oh, I need this to you don't need anything. You
Hmm.
don't need anything to like have that feeling you're looking for. So when I know that I'm in that vibration or in that thinking space, I actually stop. And the first thing I do again is like go within. Like, what is that void? Where is that void coming from? If the assumption is that there's God in us and we're like fully whole, there's consciousness in us, the void must be something else that I picked up during my life journey. It must be some pain that I inherited, some unresolved emotion. I need to heal that. And until I heal that, there's no point me going any further because I'm just perpetuating this cycle of like, oh, I feel like I need to fill this void. Oh, I got it. Oh, I still need to fill this void. Oh, I got it. Never ending. It's never going to end. This
Hmm.
this was a realization I had this week. I felt this weird like need to succeed, and I kept feeling it day after day. So I stopped. I was like, I need to solve this. Like I need to heal what's going on here. Why do I feel that need? Why do I feel empty? Why do I feel unworthy? Let me solve that, and then I can take action. But I think that's where we get very quick to just say like, let me just keep achieving and hopefully it'll go away. Doesn't work like that. You got to the attention isn't outwards at any time. The
Hmm.
attention is inwards. And that's the way we need to be turning.
Wow, that is super powerful realization. I believe, similarly that we should do things with happiness, not for
Mm,
happiness. That is the trap, I believe.
I love that. That's beautiful.
Thank you. Because it worked for me. Even in the
Mm,
morning while I was meditating, after that I felt that. to take every action with happiness. I'm going to put in that energy of happiness and everything.
Wow. I
So
really love that. I really love that mentality. I think it sort of goes back to that concept of like you have the power to create your experience of reality in any way that
100%.
you want.
Hmm. Yes. And also, why we are disaligned with the element of happiness and everything. If you've read the Bhagavad Gita, there's a concept of swadharma, isn't it?
Mhm.
So people.
You're gonna have to explain it to me. It's been a very
Okay,
long
okay.
time.
We'll talk about it. Yeah, we'll talk about it. That people think of dharma as the different religions and many different things, isn't it? In different countries and different places.
Mm,
But in
mm,
reality, the dharma is our duties, the fundamental duties, something that upholds you, that uplifts you is dharma. And then
mm,
Lord Shri Krishna talks about the swadharma. Swa means self, dharma is duties. So we have
mm,
certain unique duties to fulfill here on this planet. And
mm,
there we say that Arjuna is confused. He's a warrior. He's saying, I'm not going to fight. It is his duty. And he's
mhm,
giving many reasons I'm not going to fight because he's my uncle, he's my this, he's my that. He's focused over the small stuff. That selfishness.
mm,
He's not looking at the
mhm.
bigger picture, the long term game.
Wow.
And that is why many a times we also, somewhere we are aware, we give many different reasons to not follow our swadharma. So, is there any way that why do we fear like Arjuna? You know, from where, from which place that fear is coming from? Do you have
I
anything
actually
to share about it?
stumped by that question. That is such a good question.
Hmm.
Yeah, I actually don't know the answer to that.
We have, we all have been there, and we consistently find ourselves in
Yeah,
that place like Arjuna.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I still think there's a level of um like in that scenario, right? The way Arjuna was able to come out of it was by literally having Krishna narrate the Bhagavad Gita to him. I think in a similar way, like, and it wasn't like Krishna was giving him something that was not part of him, right? It was simply Krishna's words that meant Arjuna was able to tap back into that the God in him, like the higher consciousness in him. So I think it's the same thing with us. Like when we are faltering and we know when we are doing something that isn't in alignment with
Hmm.
our purpose or who we are. We know. Like at the very base level, we know. And if we don't consciously admit it, our body will tell us. Suddenly you're falling sick every 2 days.
Hmm.
Suddenly you're getting like a weird anxious feeling. Like your body's going to tell you when you're off purpose, right? So it's
100%.
sort of like inculcating or introducing and sticking to those consistent practices every day that are going to keep you in alignment with your higher consciousness so that when you're on the battlefield and you have to execute, you're more likely to say, hang on a minute, who's
Hmm.
going to take the decision here, the that part of me that's unhealed or the higher consciousness part of me. So I think it's like, you know how they say like greatness is made in the moments that people can't see. So it's sort of like that. It's the meditations that you do every day. It's the spiritual stuff that you do every day, the things that you do every day to build up and compound your this side, the ability for you to think from a higher consciousness. That's when you have to face the truth, you're going to go that way rather than the unhealed way
Hmm.
or
That
the
is
unconscious way.
super powerful. The way you shared the awareness of, it's coming from the unhealed part or from the higher consciousness. That awareness is so important. At the basic level, you shared about the body, about your condition, mental condition. If you see yourself being sick, complaining, being irritable, not finding the goodness, and everyone is bad. This is not good. That is not good. That is a sign. So you're helping people in turning within, and that is such a practical stuff to realize. So beautiful. Okay, what is your idea of freedom? We talk about the moksha, the liberation, that is the ultimate purpose of life. As we say, there are the four aims of life. That is purushartha. The dharma, artha, and kama moksha. Dharma means certain duties that we have to do. Artha is certain wealth to sustain the body, sustain everything else. And then you have certain desires to fulfill, which is there from the many births together, which you make some
Mm,
stuff happen. And then the ultimate purpose is moksha, that we call the nirvana, the
mm.
freedom, the liberation, and many different terminologies. So what is freedom moksha for you? Is there anything that you have to share about that? And how does purpose lead one towards the moksha, that is the highest purpose? Hmm.
So I think freedom for me would be like living in alignment with that highest consciousness all the time,
Hmm.
which I think I like again, I feel very unqualified to talk about this, but I can try to say stuff and maybe it's true, maybe it's not. But I think moksha is when it's not just like, okay, I'm in constant alignment with this. It's like I am this. And in the realization of like I am this goes away, like the attachment to this goes away.
Hmm.
So I actually think freedom is like a not a lower state, but it's almost like a preceding state before moksha, which is moksha is like I don't even know, like that's like on another level. So the reason I actually think like Sadhguru mentioned this and I really resonated with it, but it was sort of like if you can get people aligned to their purpose and achieving the greatest version of their purpose, it's like it's like what I was saying earlier, in the process of achieving that, there's a huge amount of upliftment that happens of your consciousness because it is such a big vision. You're not going to achieve that vision being a hateful person, being a
Hmm.
closed mind. You have to uplift, you have to develop, you have to grow. The growth is exponential, right? So in a way, you pursuing your purpose is one of the ways that you can actually fast track your spiritual growth. And I've seen that for myself. Like before I knew this, before I was aligned to my sense of purpose, I was very close-minded, very like just I was not the same person at all. But
Hmm.
because this was here, I had to rise to the level of being capable of achieving it. And in the process of that, my spiritual growth is like exponential. Like it's just been beyond anything that I could have ever even imagined, right? So actually, when I'm talking about purpose, I'm not just talking about like you achieving a worldly mission. There's a deeper spiritual soul level thing happening here, and purpose just accelerates your evolution
Hmm.
towards realization. And I've always seen it that way.
Wow. Very beautifully shared about the sense of freedom and how the purpose can help you attain that highest freedom. And that is the reason, when you are aware of the certain deep desires, maybe there's many a times I share, I'm here to, uplift 1 billion people, just to give a number, in
Love that.
realizing
I
their,
think I have a similar sentence on my Instagram, so that's awesome.
yeah, in realizing their purpose with the power of meditation and Bhagavad Gita. So again,
Wow.
it is an idea. And for example, like after a few years, I'm not here. That is very much possible even after just after this session.
Hmm.
So it's
Hmm.
a reality, it can happen. But if I have this deep desire, I'm going to take next birth and this is going to be continued with me. And that is why when we see that some people who are so driven, so powerfully sharing things, uplifting people, making stuff happen, and such a charm is there, such a, they're helping so many people, so it is being carried away from many different lifetimes, the impressions.
Wow.
So
Wow.
yeah. So again, the
That's
freedom,
really cool.
maybe the freedom is not there, but the sense of higher purpose is there. And that is how I believe
Yeah.
that purpose also leads us towards freedom, because you have to make
Yes.
stuff happen which you are here for. You cannot just deny, I'm
Yes.
not going to do anything, I'm just going to meditate.
Yeah. Yeah. So actually, this reminds me of another teaching. I think it was from Chinmaya Mission, where they were kind of like, if you can take one thing and become completely focused on that one thing, it's that in itself is like one of the most powerful things you can do because mind body spirit is aligned to one vision, one purpose.
Mm,
That's spiritual growth right there, for you to
yeah.
be able to create that mastery and that singular focus. And then from there, the next level is like, how do I drop like all of this material desire and step into like that highest like consciousness? But this is a beautiful way of getting there in my eyes. Like it's like as you're uplifting others, you're uplifting yourself, and then you get to that point, and I don't know what happens after that point. I'm on the journey right now, but I know it's only good things. Like it's only going to take you closer and closer to that final destination of moksha, realization, whatever you want to call it.
So just that focus, not being distracted by multiple things, which is so prevalent nowadays because of multiple reels and many different things people are distracted towards at the very basic level, at the practical level, isn't it? So
Yeah,
this
exactly.
time, that focus towards the purpose, towards that one thing that you want to make it happen, that is so important in this time.
100%.
You know, is there any book that you'll recommend to people for realizing the purpose of life?
So I am a firm believer that you're never going to find it outside of you. You're only going to find it within.
Yes.
But there have been a few books that, like I said, have changed my perception. and helped me to go within a lot
Hmm.
better. So I
Hmm.
think like any book that documented conversations with Ramana Maharishi were like an eye opener for me. Like they just went straight through and it was like game changer.
Hmm.
Um the other one was The Alchemist. For me, that was like a very game changing book.
Same
Um
here.
yeah,
I.
so I think why it's so beautiful is like the whole thing is a metaphor, and your subconscious operates on metaphors. It operates on imagery. And I
Hmm.
think that's why it's able to cut straight through and like kind of hit you at that deep level. So I think that's one. The third one is like a lot more uh is a lot less spiritual, I think, but still amazing. Was oh, it's like the Dale Carnegie book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. So that was like a game changer for me because again, it teaches you that like if you can internally show up in social situations with the intention, with this really pure intention, I'm just going to listen to people, I just want to know more about you, everything changes and the way you interact with the world changes. So those three aren't going to help you find your purpose as such, but I think they will form the foundation of setting you up for like being able to go on that journey and being able to like work on that purpose with a lot of passion and commitment.
Beautiful. That's so powerful. Have you read the autobiography of a yogi by Paramhansa Yogananda ji?
I have. Yeah, yeah. Also incredible, like absolutely mind blowing. Like I couldn't like function for a week after I read that. I was like, whoa. Like,
Okay.
whoa.
Could you elaborate over this? Like, how did you felt after reading that? That you couldn't function. That is something you
So
wanted. Hmm.
I think there are some books and pieces of content that really resonate to a point where it's like you just question everything after that. And there's a few books that have done that for me, and that was definitely one of those books. So for a week, I was just like, holy crap, this isn't real. Who am I? What am I doing? Like it was like just crazy. Like, and it's a good thing because it again, those are for me like those moments that kind of like move you further along that spiritual path.
Hmm.
But yeah, like in terms of being able to just show up in like the day-to-day life, I was like, oh my God, this is so hard right now. Like there's so much I'm questioning in my brain.
I can resonate so much with that experience because when I was in class 12th, like 6, 7 years back, I was completely lost, purposeless, what I have to do with my life, and there's many things was going on. Then I took up this book, Autobiography of a Yogi, Alchemist, and
Wow.
Bhagavad Gita, Yoga Sutras, and multiple scriptures, and the wisdom from my guru, the practices, the Sudarshan Kriya meditation. After going through all the wisdom and the knowledge, again, as you shared that you're in silence, not it's complete in a bliss state, or even we can say in a complete mess also, we can say, because you're
Yeah.
like, what's
Mess,
happening with me?
100%.
Am I okay? Why everyone is coming? What happened to this girl? At
Yeah,
that time,
yeah.
I told, because I've done my bachelor's and master's in yogic science. So at that time, I took
Wow.
that decision that I want to go towards the path of yogic science because what this is what I want to do with my life. And that time in my family, that like being coming from Bihar and that being a girl, there are many things that happen. So my parents told me, no, no, you don't have to go for the yogic science and many different things. So that phase was very difficult. But again,
Mhm.
I realized that when the purpose is clear, it's not about the parents, it's not about anyone else outside. I realized
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
If I'm clear, then the universe will support you. And that
Wow.
that made me realize that, I'm complaining, I'm blaming because I'm not clear. Because the day I was clear, I had all the skill to make them aware, and they were happily, smilingly, they
Amazing.
were aware. So
Wow.
that is how it was.
Wow. That's quite inspirational. That's very, very amazing.
Thank you so much. So that is how it helped me towards this journey. And
Incredible.
is there any message that you want to share to people who are lost in their life, who are trying to find their way? The one statement, one realization you want to share for them? Just one. That
I
if they
think
forget everything
just
else,
one. Oh my God, that's so hard.
complete session. If they're like they're having too heavy for them or something, just one realization you want to share.
I think that if you're feeling lost, this could be the turning point in your life where you actually find yourself again. But
Hmm.
it's only going to happen if you're ready to fight for yourself and to show up for yourself and do those things that we talked about.
Hmm.
And in the end, it'll be 100% worth it because you'll look back on a life where you were like, I knew who I was and I did what I came here to do.
Wow, that is so powerful. If you're lost, congratulations, you have arrived. Now you're ready to. So it's a good thing. Go celebrate. Don't. Okay, okay. So there's one thing that helped me in my journey, which I was sharing you about, that I was feeling lonely. I was feeling nobody is supporting me. My parents are against me. Every single thing. There's one thing that helped me in overcoming that situation is the connection with the divine, with the God. We want to feel the connection in the people and stuff, but we know that everything changes. So
Mm.
you're connected with something, someone, it changes, isn't it?
Yes,
So you have
yes.
anything to share about the connection with the divine love, and how is it helping us in realizing the purpose? Yeah.
That's a really good question.
Mm,
Um, So I think like from day one, I was always like a Krishna devotee, and
mm,
like I never questioned that. And it's just like having like a oh man, I'm gonna get emotional talking about this. Like it's like having like a best friend or someone who loves you, who's like with you every single day, no matter what. And when you have that, like there was a period of time where I was an atheist, right? And that was the worst period of my life. Like for me, that was just it just I cannot even say how crappy that was. But when I came back to like my path and like I was like back and I was like back being a devotee, like all of that, like it's not even about like, oh, it makes me stronger, it makes me achieve my purpose. It's just like you're home. Like no matter what happens, you're always home. And you just have there's this energy that's just with you always. And it's
mm,
like so beautiful and so loving and so amazing and just the best feeling in the world. It's like you're just in love every day. Like
mm.
why would you say no to that? Anyone would want that, right?
That is so beautiful. At the same time, there are no words with which you can express that feeling. You feel so
Yeah.
incomplete. How to share this? Because you have to
Yeah.
experience to realize that.
A
But
hundred percent.
But the people who share that, I don't feel a personal connection with the divine. I feel that there's something separate, something too high, which I cannot connect with, or something of that sort. Is there any way they can feel the connection with the divine or experience that divine love which we are talking about? What would you
I
suggest to
think
that
it
person?
so I think for me, like even though it was always there since I was a kid, I still had to walk away for a few years to redefine what is spirituality for me, what is Hinduism for me.
Hmm.
And so like that, but I did that. I put the effort in to understand my own culture, my own heritage, my own philosophies. And in the end, I came back stronger because I had understood it from for myself. I had interpreted it for myself. It
Hmm.
wasn't like this, oh, my mom told me to go to the temple and to put my hands
Hmm.
together and pray. It was now I understand. I understand Advaita, I understand Dvaita, I understand the different philosophies, understand what will like, the fundamental, end goal of like someone who identifies as Hindu or like however you want to call it. So I put the effort in to like investigate that. And I went in with an open mind. I'm like, what I'm looking for here is for the life philosophy that is going to guide me and that resonates with me at a soul level. Whatever that turns out to be, I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna understand it on my terms. And I came back to it with a stronger connection than I had ever had before. So I
Hmm.
think when you don't feel a connection to something, it's because you've understood it potentially at a superficial level in
Hmm.
a way that other people have
Hmm.
interpreted it for you. There's no way you can feel connected to something that has been like that
Hmm.
you don't have that personal
Wow.
you know what I'm saying, like
Yeah, I
you
can.
build that personal connection when you make the effort to like
Hmm.
let me understand the Bhagavad Gita, let me
Hmm.
understand why I have to wear a bindi, let me understand, and then that process changes everything and that connection becomes your connection, your authentic connection because you've built it.
Hmm.
So I think that's what I would say. I think if you
100%.
don't have that connection but you want the connection, you need to redefine that connection for yourself. You need, again, it's all the effort you put in to define things for yourself, to like personally build that connection.
That is so powerful, like even small stuff, small things, we put in so much of effort, even all the worldly relations. So why not to put in the effort towards the journey of the highest? So when you're coming back to India, your place of purpose.
Like probably very soon. I like in the next month or so is I'm planning to come back and see where everything takes me in terms of coaching in India, all of that. So a lot of exciting plans in the works, but I can't wait. Like I'm just so happy.
I'm so happy for you, and I'm so super inspired by this conversation. I had
Same, thank you.
so many learnings, realizations with you, and the world need many more such people to help the souls and to uplift and help them. I'm super inspired. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for being here.
Bye.
Thank you.